Rick Santorum went on a conservative radio show, and he proceeded to make stuff up about the separation of church and state.
Yeah, hi, this is William in Chesapeake, and just two observations, or a question and observation. One is an observation that if you've ever read the Communist Manifesto, that a number of the things that the far left, aka the Democrat Party, and the president is pushing for and accomplishing, actually accomplishes a number of the tenets of the Communist Manifesto, including the ascendancy or the elevation of pornography and homosexuality, gay marriage, voter fraud, open borders, and mass self-importation of illegal immigrants and things of that nature. So I think that's a huge cause for concern that would raise a number of red flags for any politician, but it doesn't seem like that caution is being thrown to the wind. The other thing is... go ahead.
Go ahead, Senator.
Well, I would just say that the word separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution, but it was in the Constitution of the former Soviet Union. So that's where it's very, very comfortably sat, not in ours.
Communists created the separation of church and state. Communists. Well, I guess our founding fathers were communists. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Oops. In fact, Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists, he famously said this, quote, I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. So he laid out very clearly, if you weren't sure how to interpret the wording in the First Amendment, Thomas Jefferson is saying in a letter, yes, that part right there, you know what that means? It means there is a separation of church and state. But no, it was the dirty commies. Trotsky came up with it. Or was it Lenin? I'm not sure. You tell me, Rick. You seem to know the history of this, even though you don't. Now, to dig a little deeper, why don't we go ahead and look at some other quotes from our founding fathers to see if they agree with Rick Santorum. Because remember, in Rick Santorum's mind, all of these guys were fundamentalist Christians. They all absolutely loved the Bible, they loved Jesus, they loved Christianity, and they made this nation a Christian nation, founded on Judeo-Christian values. This is what we hear all the time. Well, is that true? Well, let's go to the founding fathers themselves. How about Thomas Jefferson? He said, quote, Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. Rick, pretty sure you got this one wrong, buddy. He also said, it is too late in the day for men of sincerity to pretend they believe in the Platonic mysticisms that three are one, talking about the Trinity, of course, one is three, and yet the one is not three, and the three are not one. He also said, there is not one redeeming feature in our superstition of Christianity. It has made one half the world fools and the other half hypocrites. In fact, did you know that Thomas Jefferson released a book called The Faith and Moral Teachings of Jesus Christ, where it was all of Jesus' moral teachings, but he took away all of the anti-realistic nonsense, all the magic and all the bullshit, so he just had the philosophy of how to treat people. So he took away all the crap in the Bible and was like, okay, there's a few good messages in here. I'll put that together and disregard the seven-headed dragons and the earth being flat and all the backwards nonsense. How about this? Quote, lighthouses are more useful than churches. That was from Ben Franklin. How about, the way to see by faith is to shut the eye of reason. That's by Ben Franklin as well. How about, this would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. That would be John Adams. And another great one, of all the tyrannies that affect mankind, tyranny in religion is the worst. That is Thomas Paine. Look, the history of this is pretty clear. Of course, some founding fathers were Christians, no doubt about it, but many of them were deists. In fact, some of the most prominent founding fathers were deists. And of course, a deist at that time was as close as you really got to atheism, because there was no there was no consensus for a logical explanation for why things seem so designed. We didn't really have a full understanding of the theory of evolution at the time, so it was rational for people to assume that there was some sort of God and some sort of creator. But what the Founding Fathers did, and what made them way ahead of their time, is that they said, yeah, okay, we buy the whole creator thing, but the people who pretend to know what he thinks and pretend that any specific book represents him and pretend that he reads our thoughts and he's in control of everything, nah, you're kind of making that other stuff up. So they were way ahead of their time, and they're way ahead of Rick Santorum,